Okay, so hi Simona, thank you for making some time and doing this interview with me.
My pleasure.
Before starting the interview, would you like to introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your career?
Okay, so I am Simona Villa and I am an event planner. I've started working in this field over 25 years. I'm an American company, and now I'm responsible for the EMEA corporate events for Brady Corp, where EMEA stands for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Other than that, I also have my own company for private events. So let's specify the difference between corporate events and private events, because events are really a wide word. So corporate events relate to business. The customers are companies that need to promote their products and services or gather their employees to share information and success. Private events include any event from baby shower to weddings or birthday parties where customers are private and personal event.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. So I think you will be able to talk all about our questions. Um, so in this interview, we'll talk about five subjects like ecology, security, technology, financial aspects, and creativity and innovation. So let's start with the first one, ecology and sustainable projects. So how do you think events can become more sustainable in the future?
Now, any kind of event causes a lot of waste and leave. Statistics say that as average, a single attendee produces around 2 kilos of waste. When you calculate that number for exhibitions, for example, for let's say 1,000 attendees over 3 days, you get 6 tons of waste. And it's not just about waste either. There are many factors that go into event sustainability. Now, coming to your question, what can we do? First, we need a good composting and recycling program at the venue. It's there where we can really make the difference. The traditional recyclables are paper, cardboard, plastic, and metal cans, but many people don't realize that you can recycle carpet or padding and wood waste. Everything is usually put together by the stand builder and sent to the landfill, while they should spend more time to separate materials and make them recyclable.
Oh, okay, thank you. So do you
Go.
Oh, sorry, the connection was a little bit bad for a second. So
Can you hear me now?
yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, so I was just saying that what we can verify as event organizers is how the venue and each vendor collect waste. We must be realistic here. We don't have the power to impose a plan. Think about exhibitions where we are responsible only for our stand. Or think about the wedding venue where we can ask how the catering and if the catering recycles some waste, but we can't to clean the dishes. We can work on the tools we use, such as biodegradable cups and utensils, a real china and glass, plants instead of cut flowers, above all, in-season flowers to avoid transportation, which involves gas emissions. We must also make it as easy as possible for our attendees and guests to recycle and maintain the venue while still enjoying the event by placing plenty of recycling bins, using waste bag color coded for different waste material, and applying clear signage for labeling bins. Posters with images of materials can help make it easy for sorters, mainly at international events where people come from different countries and may have. We should add cool graphics with examples of what goes where to help them out and avoid any confusion, which saves resorting later. Think now of packaging. There are biodegradable options that can become mandatory. because they are harmful to the environment and could be used again if necessary. Paper is a field where we can do most. For an earth-friendly stationery, print invitations, programs, and menus are printed on recycled paper or seed paper. Seed paper is a biodegradable material that sprouts into flowers when planted in a spot of soil. We also need select vendors with good recycling and composting programs. If we choose a green location where renewable energies are already installed, where the catering service uses ecological grocery, that has enough equipment to avoid the rental needs, most is done. Rental means transportation, and that has a carbon footprint. So we should avoid rental as much as possible. And we can recycle bags or reuse lanyards and badge holders, ribbons, and other materials. So during the event, even better would be to look for companies that give back to the environment. For example, there are companies that plant a tree for every order they receive. I want to make you an example where we as individuals can make the difference. When picking out your engagement ring or wedding band, track the origin of your diamonds. Though it may seem counterintuitive, lab-created stones have less impact on the environment. There is no mining involved in the creation process. It is not harmful to the earth. It is not involved in any conflict trade. So check out brands that focus on socially responsible diamond and gemstone mining and the use of precious materials or metals means that wedding jewelry has a long negative history for our planet and laborers. Now let's think about location and transportation impact on carbon footprint. We should host our event and lodging in the same, possibly close to the airports or highways, and anyhow easily reachable by public transportation or food. If needed, we can organize a shuttle service from 2 or 3 main pickup points, or incentive carpooling to reduce the use of cars. And we must make sure that there are plenty of things to do nearby that are easily walked to, such as restaurants and shopping. And of course, we must source eco-friendly or green hotels. Catering is a major part of in terms of sustainability, because the planet is moving towards a plastic-free world, and we can move in that direction easily. So look at reusable or biodegradable cups, or if not possible for weddings, for example, real china and glass. Go for 0-kilometer food, biologic food, whole meat flour, organic food to promote better health. Eating local is important at all times, as the carbon emissions involved in with shipping food across the country or across the globe has a negative impact on our environment. So work with caterers who source their food locally, and be thoughtful of only choosing foods that are actually in season at the time of our event, the same as flowers, as we said. And the same also goes for wine. Look for natural, organic, and biodynamic bottlings to support environmentally conscious producers who focus on being earth-friendly. And stop throwing food out. First, we must count and check our guests and attendees and do not overorder. Avoid buying individual bottles of water or drinks, and instead we can choose bulk dispensers or pitchers. At conference and meetings, we can install water dispensers instead of offering bottles of waters that are usually left half full. And consider donating the left food to those who are in need. This is unfortunately still hard to do. In some countries, it is even not allowed, or you need to follow a complex bureaucracy that makes it almost impossible. However, this is an area where there's room to improve. this huge waste is really not acceptable anymore. So whenever possible, partner with homeless shelters or local initiatives that can take leftover food and dispense into the needy once the event is over. And last, we have now renewable energies and new technologies that help reducing the impact of the event on the environment.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and that's something that we will talk about later. So, do you expect any changes in obligations or regulations concerning the ecology or environment?
Yes, so there is an ISO rule dealing with sustainable events. According to the ISO 20121, sustainable event management is the process of integrating environmental and social responsibility issues into event planning. So sustainable event management requires us to consider the needs and values of different stakeholders that are impacted by our event. On the one hand, we must take steps to reduce significant negative impacts or harm, such as solid waste, as we have just seen, while on the other hand, we also need to seek out opportunities for events to leave positive legacies that benefit communities, such as philanthropic and volunteer projects. So the ISO 20121 offers a guidance and a best practice to help us manage our events and control their social, economic, and also environmental impact. The ISO's flexible approach allows it to fit to all types of events, from big music festivals to school outings. The standard has been developed with input from many different stakeholders, and it addresses all stages of an event supply chain, including monitoring and measuring guidelines. Other than that, depending on the country where the event takes place, there are rules to respect that are not strictly linked to sustainability. For example, when you organize an event in a grain yard or in a winery or in a wood, you have some restrictions, such as no fire, so no candles, but also in some areas, no power for lightings. You can't pull cables throughout the fields, so you must use LED lights, wireless LED light strips. Plastic is now banned in some countries, for example. Same as for the health and safety rules and regulation that are now part of the international plans and have become mandatory. These local rules and standards affecting sustainability will hopefully become laws as well, to fix guidelines to organize ecological events by pushing the market of eco-friendly and recyclable materials. And we are not far from that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's a lot to think about in the future. So that was the ecology part. So now we can go to security. What do you think about security and events in the future? Will there be more rules, more controls?
So controls are done at two levels, by the venue and by the organizer. So the both of us have to guarantee safety and security at the event. How to manage crowds at the events largely depends on the crowd. So certain crowds are mellow, other crowds like to party hard, so hard that they break things. Once you have an idea of who, when, and where, you can start contacting everyone that will be affected by your event and needs to know what kind of crowd to expect. And we should have a plan for some of the worst case scenarios, like the weather suddenly changes or flammable objects catch fire. A fight breaks out between attendees, or someone is caught stealing, or everyone panics, so people trample each other. We must really figure out the best way to manage those situations so we don't lose control if they happen. In some countries, people are strictly checked when entering. So metal detectors, personal badges, admission allowed to a specific number of people who meet requirements in terms of knowledge and roles. In this era of terroristic attacks, devastating natural disasters, and political unrest, it's a million-dollar question. How could this threat have been avoided? What can we do? We must arm ourselves with the intelligence and the resources necessary to maintain safe and secure events. The approach may vary depending on the budget, but implementing an attendee screening process is highly effective security measure that can be executed before the events even begins. Many events these days are free. So you have an audience that has not paid for an admission. They are showing up and we don't know who they are. They haven't been pre-screened in terms of backgrounds. Therefore, we can't but go to a handheld metal detector wand up to a back check. So when it comes to selecting a location for our event, we must make sure that the venue is well equipped and also willing to do its part to communicate key messaging to attendees. If an incident occurs, or cooperation will be the key. So establishing exactly who is in charge of what can save precious minutes in terms of emergency. From brand ambassadors to event managers, everyone should be crystal clear about what their role entails. The key thing here is when it comes to decision making, who is in charge? In emergency, there's no time to waste in looking for the right decision maker. Hiring security staff is a great start when it comes to maintaining a safe event. And communicating our events layout, including areas of concern, is absolutely essential. Security personnel should be provided a two-sided information sheet with a site map with the location of all restrooms, metal tents, activities that we are providing, and the schedule of those activities, directions to areas where emergency exits are. Also, we should equip people in sensitive areas with a two-way radio that connects to the security manager. And we should have someone in our team who is directly responsible for managing security operations. And never assume that past tactics will be used or useful at future events because things keep changing. CATV cameras are now installed almost everywhere in exhibition buildings and venues, but we can go farther. In some countries, you leave your fingerprint when you land. Is this a possibility in case of major events? It is, of course, but it has an impact on privacy. Fighting with the GDPR rules, I do believe that as most football supporters, for example, are now recorded in a file, the same could be done for major music events or main international trade shows. Let's find a compromise between privacy and security.
Yeah, that's not that easy to find a compromise, I think. So yeah, we talked about a lot of people together. So what are your thoughts about crowd management?
So we said before that it depends on the crowd, but to manage crowds, we first make sure to contact upfront the major stakeholders, such as emergency services, event contractors, local authorities, neighboring businesses, and of course the venue management. All exhibition centers have a risk assessment form for health and safety. That is an integral part of planning our crowd management strategy. They help the venue to identify potential dangers and plan how to keep people away from them. So some locations are alcohol-free and food can be served or even introduced to avoid drunk people around or poisoning. Let's also make it clear to our attendees or guests upfront all restrictions and rules that will be in place during the event. Attendees must be aware of them before making any decision to attend. At the event, we can avoid having to answer a lot of questions on the day if we use proper event signage. make sure that the attendees can find their way around and know where not to go. We must have big signs that can be read from afar for registration queues, restrooms, smoking areas, staff-only rooms, potential hazards, and fire extinguishers. In the halls and in the single stand, fire extinguishers must be placed in a specific and visible location that can't be hidden by furniture. But believe it or not, each exhibitor is not obliged to have a fire extinguisher in his stand. That makes no sense. And then use barricades and cones and ropes to show where people should queue up for tickets and registration, and make clear where the main event is and fence off the areas that we want to be left alone. Now, a main topic. Let's put a focus on crisis communications. That is the booster to generate panic. Bad news travels fast, so we have to be clear about who has the authority to develop crisis communications. The people on the ground that are running the event are our first line of defense in communicating information. It's important to explain to them and cascade information very quickly with approved language. The cascade of information in that scenario is really critical, as is deciding what the key points are and the information we want them to broadcast.
Okay, so it's like a real collaboration between a lot of people to make the best of it.
Correct.
Thank you. Very interesting. Yeah, like we know, during the pandemic, a lot of online events are replacing the live events because we have to, unfortunately. So what do you think about online events, and do you think they will continue to exist once the live sector can be organized again?
This is easy to answer, as this has been my job for the last months.
Yeah.
We have faced a global change in people habits. Everybody has been forced to move to digital, even in its daily routine. So e-commerce and social media are now part of everybody's life, not only young people or office employees. Elder housewives had to learn and move to digital world. So online events, including main exhibitions, local open days, company internal webinars, down to family meetings, have become common tools to meet and share information. This will definitely be part of our future. All exhibition organizers have put in place online platforms where exhibitors can better showcase their products, far from the exhibitor listing of the past. Now customers can download literature and watch videos and demos. Matchmaking and online calls are the new ways to make business. Companies have realized that this cuts costs exponentially. Back to your first question also, online events have zero carbon footprints, for example. And time-wise, salespeople cut the traveling hours sitting in their cars offline, reducing car accidents and gas emissions, other than car wear. In the near future, all live shows coming in 2021 have an online platform next to the live event. The main reason is to allow people who don't feel safe to travel to attend the show. But the second reason is that some people can choose the comfort of their smart working to search for suppliers or products, simply scrolling the landing pages of the websites. What we need to improve is the follow-up. Companies get the leads of attendees, but the missing of the face-to-face makes it harder to connect and have a confidential relation with these potential customers. This is an area where companies are working on to get a better return on investment from shows, not only in terms of brand awareness.
Yeah, and like I said, like online events and like the real connection with people will be important. And do you think any technological developments will help to create more connection or could be used in the future?
Yes. So first of all, something already in place for corporate events, but not for private events, is going paperless. So instead of mailing out invites, we can create an event page, application or email subscription for our attendees. This also allows us to communicate with our attendees and staff in real time. And in case of a last minute change to our event, we can easily distribute the new information, so no cost and no waste. Let's think about 2020 and the COVID lockdown. How many invitations thrown and reprinted, or thousands of programs to modify and reprint when you add a speaker or make a change to the agenda. Social channels like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram allow us to skip handing out maps and programs. So let's use the web and the social network properly. Or think about restaurants. Digital menus are a new tool come to life during COVID. Using tablets on the tables also helped to keep the cost of printing down. In the past, it was associated with fast food only, while now most restaurants use tablets or applications to get orders, and people are becoming more and more used to this tool, even if they have not realized yet how important this is in terms of sustainability and contamination. This is something that my brides don't want to take into consideration, but we should also avoid personalization as much as possible. Printing personalized elements, for example, table numbers and menus with dates and specific event information, means you can't reuse them. Instead, we can laminate basic table numbers so they can be wiped clean and used for our next event. And last but not least, domotic, digital tools and renewable energies are the new era of the event organization.
Yeah, that's definitely something we will talk about in the next topic. So how important is it to introduce these technologies, like you said, maybe to use reusable laminate and things? So how important is it, you think?
So other than the digital tools we've just spoken about, we have really renewable energies that help organizing a sustainable event. Using renewable energy sources with efficient system design and the latest technology can help cut power usage and minimize our footprint. A simple example is switching to LED lighting and lower power efficiency. We can use furniture that incorporates solar panels or alternative energy sources, such as smart benches, for example. We can provide high-tech charging options with lower impact. Eco or green events already do, but all events indeed can incorporate technology like these pop-up solar power charging stations that are perfect for outdoor events. If the event is quite important, we can think about renting solar panels instead of portable power generators. This can be integrated into furniture, such as benches, as I said, or tables, as well as being temporarily installed for lightings, for example. And we can also use recycled materials for booth exhibitions, for example, cardboard booths and furniture that can be recycled again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so recycling will be very important. But I think the event sector is very aware of these things, but we have still a long way to go, like you said. So it's very interesting to think about. Yeah, for like investing in recycling, we need a lot of, the financial aspect is important as well. So
Yeah.
if there occurs a financial setback in the future, like during this pandemic, how do you think personal planning should be approached?
So when you face such a huge economical crisis, you can't avoid reducing your costs. The impact on unemployment is high, but furlough, technical unemployment up to firing are a consequence that can't be avoided. Organizers have learned how to survive by switching to digital, to e-commerce, to takeaway, but such a setback creates a consequent redundancy in the staff. I do believe that countries where unions restrictions are too strict should come to a flexible program, not to kill companies, and at the same time to allow workers to easily move from one work to the other, even for a short time. This may sound a step back in time, while if well planned, it's a better solution than firing your workers or closing your company definitely. Flexibility has shown to be the key factor to survive a pandemic. Rearranging productions, move workers from a role to another, think outside the box to catch the new market opportunities, and be open-minded towards changes. This was the lesson that we learned.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think flexibility is the word, a very important word in our sector. Even without the pandemic as such, we have to be very flexible. So to what extent do you think an organization can be prepared for such financial setbacks? For example, the cancellations of events, because we had to cancel a lot of events.
Yeah, we have indeed a real example coming from the last and the current year. Most of my events have been postponed or cancelled. The event organization, is a big machine where every single gear is a crucial part of the whole. And move the date means dismantling the Lego castle and mounting it again in a different place, numbering each single brick in order not to lose it and not to mount it wrongly. So finance is a key factor. The organizers must either refund the exhibitors or customers or move the invoice to a later date, which means that they have an impact on their finance. The key word in COVID time has been flexibility, as we said. So booth builders, rental companies, catering service, and minor vendors suffer from the cancellation of the events and could manage the setback only if they had a good emergency plan in place. So allowing them to keep the business alive with other tools, such as we said, webinars, digital events, online shows, e-commerce, takeaway, depending on your business. And we as organizers must keep in contact with our customers. They rely on our capacity to reorganize the event as it was supposed to be, to coordinate all vendors involved so that not a single detail is changed.
Okay, thank you. We already got to our last part of the interview about creativity and innovation, something that I'm very curious about, I think. So there's a lot of competition between events and the market is quite saturated. There are a lot of events. So how important is creativity and innovation for events to stand out and to stay top of mind with the target group or like new audiences?
So creativity is a focal point for event organizers. We don't need to be graphic designers or interior designers. That's not the point. But we need a graphic designer in our team to draw on paper what we have in our minds. The main task of event managers and event planners is to plan the event. So to make a project and coordinate it. However, we need to create it and think outside the box to make it unique. So first, we must be informed and up to date with innovations, new materials, new technologies that allow us to fulfill the project better and cheaper. And we must be aware of local habits, customs, and traditions to use the correct tools, the correct colors, or whatever else is appropriate in that region or for that audience. creativity starts from the very first step when we define the kind of event we are organizing. Every single detail must address the same message: premium or family-friendly, exclusive, eco-friendly, or luxury event. So the theme of the event needs to be evident across all aspects of the event, from the save the date to the official invitations, name badges, catering choices, landing pages, merchandising, and follow-up communications. Event managers must design the event so that it is instantly recognizable, its messages are clearly communicated, and its impact is lasting. Business people, are busy people. They are exposed to all kinds of communications all day long. Therefore, we must give our event a striking creative theme that acts as an eye catcher, increasing the chances of the attendees or guests choosing and remembering this event over others. To give attendees a memorable experience, we must dare to be different. Create a funny team building moment, a competition, having an unexpected speaker, or force them to run barefoot on the grass, or organize the overused photo booth in a new interactive way where our guests can show their own creativity. So these are areas where we can dare and can make the difference.
Thank you. I liked the way you said that we need to dare to stand out and to try new things and to try to connect with people in new, fascinating ways. So that's something I'll remember. And
yeah, never be shy.
Yeah, no. Thank you, thank you. So yeah, that was my last question. So thank you so much for your time. And
thank you to you. I hope it was clear and useful.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'll stop the recording.